I hereby call this regular meeting of the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors to order. We will begin with an invocation by Ms. Cleveland, followed by Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Miller. If you're able to stand, please do so.
Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to gather this evening. Please direct us in the best way possible to make the best decisions for the citizens of King George and the Service Authority. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
We have an amendment to the agenda in terms of the adjournment date. It needs to reflect that you have a work session on the budget on the Thursday, the 21st at 5:30 at the sheriff's office.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, public comment. Anybody in the audience wish to speak? Mr. Dines, do we have anybody online?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, reports of board members. Ms. Cleveland.
So I wasn't able to make the last, I think, couple board meetings, but I did watch them online, so I was able to see the content. The last meeting was the budget session that I was a part of last week. One of the things that I wanted to bring to the attention of the board is a citizen had made me aware of the irrigation meters being pretty excessive for the hookup fee, meaning that if you are adding a second meter on a home for watering your lawn or watering your garden or washing your car, etc., the hookup fee was stated that it was over $8,000. Doing comparisons with neighboring counties, that's pretty excessive. In addition to that large hookup fee, there's a minimum of a $57.41 bi-monthly bill, even if that water is not used for that second hookup. I read in the document that was provided that the hookup fee was $8,662. Again, in comparison to neighboring counties, it's thousands of dollars more. So it's just something that we might want to look into.
Okay, thank you. We did, if someone refresh me, was it a year ago or two years ago?
So there's a real simple answer to the question. We King George are in a water conservation zone. We have to. We are required by DEQ to manage our water, and basically they don't want you to use irrigation. That's the long and the short of it. So until we get surface water, the way we regulate or dissuade people from using water to water their lawns is to either have it as charged as sewer going out, because it's a regulatory, you can do it, but it's going to cost you money. Or you can pay for another connection, which you're paying the full tap fee, which is also expensive. So we're required by permit to dissuade people from using water for purposes other than, drinking things inside your house. So until a future time where we can have surface water, which isn't as highly regulated, that's kind of why those things have stuck where they are. So basically, the long and the short of it is we don't want people putting a second tap on. If they want to pay to do so, they're more than welcome to. But the governmental agencies regulating us would prefer they not do that.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Ms. Cleveland, any more?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kupka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tuesday, April 12th, I attended the Service Authority budget work session. On Sunday, April 24th, James Madison District Service Authority Director, Mr. Alan Parker, Supervisor Richard Granger and I will host a town hall for Oakland Park and Presidential Lakes customers regarding the future of the service authority. That is at the King George Citizen Center at 3:30 p.m. And I want to thank Mr. Parker for making the arrangements and taking the lead on that. And then with regard to Ms. Cleveland's comment, I believe at some point about a year ago, so Mr. Miller, I realize this predates you. However, I feel like this was back during COVID and we were at a meeting at the high school and we had discussion with regard to irrigation and consensus of the board of directors was to direct staff to do some sort of survey or analysis of a couple of homes. And we started out talking about Hopyard because I think it was a Hopyard resident who first brought this to us, this concern. And then I believe as the discussion evolved, and I think it was Mr. Bennett at the time, that we sort of narrowed the focus for Fairview Beach possibly being the neighborhood that we do this study. And so I had asked, staff a month or so ago, did that ever happen? And evidently it did not. So I want to revisit this topic with the directors and see if there is consensus once again to direct staff to take a look at that so we can make sure that that kind of analysis gets done this time, because apparently it didn't happen. And this was a big issue, especially for a number of the residents in your neighborhood.
You're remembering correctly. It was two neighborhoods we were thinking. It was Fairview Beach and Hopyard. And the reason we pulled the plug on it back then was the withdrawal permits on some of the wells were in flux with DEQ.
Mr. Miller.
And I did speak with a resident of Hopyard who indicated that they had a pretty extensive discussions with Mr. Weekly, I think is when it was being discussed. And I believe the service authority looked at it. It was kind of like a pilot program. And then it never, when Mr. Weekly left, it never got transmitted to me. I'm certainly willing to revisit it and do whatever if we need to circle back and obviously get some information back to you all and about why it never went anywhere. But I do know that this resident was very interested in it, and it was kind of like you said, a couple different places would have like a test well or a test meter, and then you'd figure out what they were generating. And so I can report back at the next.
You could look back on the videos because it was voted down. It was brought to a vote and it was voted down at the time. I don't remember all the factors for the reason it was voted down, but it was voted down at the time for the test program. From the data that was presented at the time. So you could probably look back on the recordings. I don't know. It was last year sometime. It was probably 2020 sometime, quite a bit ago now. But you could look back on the recorded meetings and probably see what the crux of the issue was then, and see if it's been abated since that point.
So is there consensus then to direct staff to go ahead and review this and bring it back to the board for a report so we can figure out where we stand on this right now? Because obviously it's still an issue if Ms. Cleveland had an inquiry and we have, like I said, I reached back from the same constituents in Hopyard contacted me a few months ago to see if there had been any movement. So, okay, thanks very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Kupka. Mr. Parker?
I'm just going to say thank you for mentioning the town hall, and it's open to also any of the supervisors who want to show up. Ms. Kupka and Mr. Granger will be officially sitting there with me as well as Mr. Miller. But if you want to attend and hear what people have to say about the possible merger, feel free to show up and listen. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Bender?
Thank you very much. I participated in our first work session on the budget last Tuesday, and I just want to reiterate to the citizens, as we make important decisions on the path forward for the service authority, these meetings are vital to hear the citizens and ratepayers' input. So please reach out to us and give us your input. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. I presented a draft document to the family that's interested in selling the land surrounding the St. Paul's Well on Strawberry Lane. They've been in contact with our attorney, Ms. Lackey, who will update us a little bit in her report on that. But it looks like that's all moving forward. And in regards to Ms. Cleveland and Ms. Kupka's, it was when Mr. Bennett was still on the board. I know we discussed and we were at the high school, and I'll go through my notes and see. But I do remember we had quite a discussion, a number of nights on it. So see what I can dig up on that. And that's all I have. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda.
Motion to accept the consent agenda is written.
Motion's been made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Moving on, report from the county attorney, Ms. Lackey.
Sure, just to dovetail on that mention of the Lot 2 of the Strawberry Hills subdivision. If you'll recall, this is a residual lot that's completely surrounds an existing well site. And I spoke with the property owners who had received the purchase and sale agreement that I prepared and that Mr. Morris transmitted, and they executed that yesterday. So I will put that, propose that as an agenda item for your next meeting for consideration of endorsing that. And that would allow a due diligence period. It's not, it's even if you did agree to the sale agreement, you would have some time to do some title work and environmental study if you even chose to do that before a closing on the property.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Any presentations or reports? We have none this week. Discussion items, the Arnold Corner well improvement.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to give you all an update on this. So Arnold's Corner well improvements. Arnold's Corner, we have 2 wells there, 1 and 2, very important to the courthouse water system. Currently, Arnold's Corner 1, our plan on that, it is not in commission right now. And our plan on that is we have engineering work being done on that, and then we will be having to install that and improve that well. That will be very important to the water issues on with courthouse. Arnold's 2, we just recently did some emergency upgrades. We found 2 small holes in the pipe. So they were able to come in and repair those. And so we were at one point, our water manager, Jerry Goldman, was telling me that we were about 64% pumping capacity on Arnold's 2. And that goes and connects with the Perkins Corner well, and Perkins Corner at one point had about 10 feet of water in it. Now we made the improvements. They were able to make those corrections, and the whole system is back to where it needs to be. So just to let you know about that. Walnut Hills subdivision, service impact. So Walnut Hills was a development that I think has been in the making for several years. They had kind of went into a little hiatus there a couple years ago, and they have reemerged, and they have a plan to put 100 units. It'll be mixed with regular single-family homes and townhomes, and they have made their submittal to the Community Development Department, and as part of that process, the Service Authority is then asked about their water and sewer service. So that's going to be something that will be coming to us here in the future. We have a meeting next week to discuss what their interests are and what their needs are. And so just putting this on your radar screen in the next couple of months. They'll be, I'm sure, asking for, some kind of a possible rebate program. I think that's what they were looking for at the last time that they were involved in coming and talking with the service authority. So the next item on there is the superseding consent order. Just to advise you that we have provided our regular updates to the Department of Environmental Quality. It's called the Burger King Pump Station, and we are to do a number of upsizing, I guess would be the best way to word it. Upsizing, increasing its capacity. Right. And we are doing this all in-house with the help with Dominion. Now, we have some issues with materials, just like any construction project is pretty far out in terms of getting some of the materials that we need on that. But we have provided the update to the DEQ representative. And so this is the superseding consent order is what you all signed and what you approved back in August. And I think I reported at the last board meeting in the interim general manager's report that there would be something on the level of like every 6 months, we will be providing some kind of an update to the DEQ on the superseding consent order. And if you may remember when Mr. Weekly was here, the superseding consent orders had to do with pump stations. And the Burger King pump station is this year's. What is next year's, Patty? Okay. So, we have a task order that we will be working on every year under the superseding consent order. The next item on here is the I&I assessments, and that is Infiltration and Inflow. And we have Bryce Young, who is our principal county engineer, and he's going to give you an update on this. No, you got to press.
Okay, can everybody hear me now? Awesome. So just a brief overview of anybody watching, anybody here might not be real familiar with Inflow and Infiltration. I'll have to turn this on too. Okay, cool. Thanks, Chris. Well, we'll start out with a brief overview of Inflow and Infiltration, move on to our plans at Dahlgren. So, Inflow Infiltration, commonly referred to as I&I, defined as groundwater entering our storm or our sewer treatment collection system. Inflow is water entering through manhole lids, incorrect connections, or illegal connections. Infiltration is water entering through damaged or defective parts of the system. All water that enters our system must be treated, and this actually has a quite costly effect on our systems. 1 gallon per minute throughout one entire year is 525,600 gallons per year that has to be treated. Average cost is about $4 per 1,000 gallons. That's $2,100 a year, just off of 1 gallon per minute, which is a flow less than the size of your pinky. So in addition to that, you also have extra wear and tear on your pump stations, your electricity costs for pumping, and it also causes issues with a lot of your permits and such with your treatment plants. So moving on, Dahlgren is our #1 priority right now. And our goals with this whole I&I endeavor is minimize our daily flow on the plant, minimize effects of the rain events on the treatment plant, minimize the treatment cost in general because everybody can use more money, and prolonging the collection system's life because replacement, this stuff does not last forever. It's something a lot of service authorities and municipalities do not always remember is the stuff that's in the ground really does need to be replaced. So to start off with the Dahlgren plan, we're starting off with the manhole inspections. And this has many benefits now and down the road. This will help us identify the general areas in which we need to concentrate our efforts. If you see downstream manhole that has a lot more water than the one directly upstream, it's kind of a red flag. We need to concentrate here a little bit more. This would help us identify neighborhoods and areas that need smoke testing. Smoke testing we'll get to later, but it's an awesome tool for finding bad connections or defects in the systems. And it's also a really good way to further document our system. We can use this information with our GIS to document these manholes further, and that way our field guys have that in the palm of their hand next time they go to track down some issues or try and solve a problem out in the field. Next is smoke testing, which is arguably my favorite part because you get to see all the surprises. You identify a lot of illegal connections. You'll see smoke coming out of some people's gutters, which are absolutely not supposed to be tied into sanitary systems. You will see smoke coming up out of the edge of roads. You'll see smoke coming up out of ditch lines and drainage lines, like stormwater drainage. It's great for identifying leaking cleanouts, and it will help us in the future with determining where to focus our pipelining efforts. Now, cure-in-place pipelining is something I did with my time at Stafford County. The process really includes the contractor coming in, you give them general area, they camera the system, and while they're cameraing, they clean and flush out the system, clean the pipes. Then they measure the pipes with that same trip, and when it's determined necessary for that piece of pipe, they order what they call a bag. It's your cure-in-place liner. It gets blown through the pipe. Then they steam it for about 45 minutes, and you're left with a practically brand new pipe. Once it's cured, that pipe is just as good as a pipe put in the ground yesterday. It's very cost effective and very quick to line a lot of these pipes, and it has very minimal disruptions to anybody in the service area. After we do the pipe lining, we move on to the manhole lining, which is often referred to as raven coating. Raven coating helps protect these manholes against hydrogen sulfide gases, which can eat the manholes from the inside out, as the concrete and the metal parts of them, and it seals them, keeping them from leaking. This particular manhole in this example, that's the same manhole before and after. As you can see, it's a lot less evidence of damage on the inside of that manhole. And as I mentioned, it extends the life of the manhole tremendously. Other upgrades and benefits we can do along the way are putting these inflow protectors, which we commonly refer to as top hats. They just keep water from flowing in the top of the manholes in areas that water's collecting on top of the manholes and getting into our system. These mostly protect against wet weather events, but they're great to have in general. And also, while we're surveying the system, it allows us to see all the manholes and open a lot of these manholes that haven't been opened in a while. And you find defects that can be replaced to help preserve and prevent I&I in the system. After Dahlgren, we will identify the next area of the county that we should concentrate on. I can't say for sure what area that will be yet. We'll have to really do an evaluation to see where it's necessary. I really should be part of a rotating maintenance program throughout the county. In long term, it will save us money and do the county a lot of greater good. And continued effort will benefit our treatment plants as well and reduce costs there as well. Any questions?
Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming out this evening and explaining that to us. What's the time frame for this work, and once it gets going, what kinds of service impacts might we see on our customers in that area?
Time frame should be, I'm hoping within the next 1 to 2 months to have the surveys on the way, if not completed. And after that, once the ball's rolling, we should be able to work with our contractors depending on their backlog of materials, but we should be able to keep the contractors rolling pretty steadily to do a lot of this work. And as far as service impacts, all of this work is very minimally affect the customer. You'll have the occasional notice, and there will be some community engagement. We will be working with the fire department, of course, when we go do smoke testing, and letting the community know that if they do see smoke coming out of their sewer vent in their house, that is completely normal. And as far as the pipelining and such, the cleaning, we'll have to let people know that there will be some jetting just in case there are any issues with that, even though that is rare and not a very common issue. But there will be some community engagement to keep everybody informed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else? Ms. Pinder?
Yes, thank you. One thing I want to say is I loved one word I heard is routine maintenance, because I'm a big person on maintenance, and that's one of the biggest things we've been lacking all around in the county, and I love to see that. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And my previous place of employment, I was part of the 3R program, which is rehab, repair, and replace. And that's something I feel I really bring to the table, and I am very gung-ho on getting started in this county.
Mr. Young, on the relining, what kind of life expectancy is there for the reline pipe? Or I know they've done a lot up in the older communities up in Northern Virginia, but I'm just curious as to what's the life expectancy of a reline pipe?
In general, life expectancy of a relined pipe is the same as the original pipe. Once it's cured, it has much the same rigidity as the original pipe as well, so it can stand the ground pressures and such. I would say it has the advantage of not having as many connections to it. And in general, I would say 50 to 60 years would be a safe bet.
Okay. And if a pipe has been relined, can it be done a second time, or would it second time require whole new pipe in the ground?
I'm honestly not sure about that. I can do a little research on that and reach out to some of my contractors. I'd be glad to get back with you.
Thank you. That'd be great. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, yes. Yes, so thank you for coming out. I agree with the maintenance part, very important, so appreciate your presentation. A couple of things I wanted to ask, though. I like the idea of the smoke tracing. I'm asking, has this been used before? And if not, then what has previously been used to uncover these concerns?
Previously, mostly was being used, to my knowledge here, is if you see a legal connection, then we ask the homeowner to fix it, or we fix it if it is something like a clean out that is broken. The smoke testing, I'm not 100% sure if it has been done in the county. I'm relatively new here. Is that a long time ago is what I'm being told by the guys who have been here a little while. But I hope that answers your question well.
I think so. And the other question I had was around the pipelining, and this was brought up in a previous board meeting. So the question is surrounding pipes that are older. Is there a limitation on how old the pipes are in order for them to be lined? I guess if they're older pipes, are they still qualified to be relined?
Yes, they are still qualified to be relined. Older pipes are just as good as newer pipes to be relined.
Thank you.
If I could just follow up on what Bryce was talking about. So we were obviously in a situation where, once we got Bryce on board and we knew his background with coming from Stafford and he was involved in this, we wanted to definitely develop a long-term plan, and which is what is still in place. There will be I&I allocations that we'll be recommending every year because your system needs to have that. But obviously when the Dahlgren wastewater plant had its issues back in January, one of the things that DEQ wanted us to do was to look at our I&I issues, and that was why we put the heavy priority on Dahlgren. The next step, like Bryce said, would be to develop a game plan to deal with Dahlgren. And then the next step after that is to start doing a big longer term, plan. And so I know that the $16.9 million that we are hopefully going to receive from the state did have some funding set asides for I&I, because once you identify the problem, you got to go in and fix it, like Bryce is talking about. And there are those multiple type fixes that we can do. But, this is the kind of thing that we need to continue to push and take care of those, that system that we have.
Can I ask a question, a follow-up on that? So, Mr. Miller, I know the 16 million in wastewater money from the Commonwealth, the ARPA money. I know that we wrote for this I&I project at Dahlgren.
Yes, ma'am.
In that money, but going forward, knowing, like, I'm just going to take a wild guess here that probably Miss Cleveland's neighborhood her district is probably going to need it next. Just knowing how old some of the system is there. Do we have any intention, or would it be the will of the board to direct staff to look at identifying the new infrastructure money also can be used for water improvements?
Well, but now keep in mind, I&I is kind of exclusively related to your sanitary sewer. It's not,
Right.
It's not related really to your water system, because your water system may be contributing to it getting into your sanitary sewer. And that's what this is all about, is to limit the infiltration and the stuff that's adding, like Bryce said, the extra the extra flow that then hurts you in terms of capacity. It can overwhelm your your plant. So, I mean, the example going back to Dahlgren, one of the things that we seriously looked at was the issue that you had a major snowstorm at the early part of January. And one of the worst things for infiltration and inflow is a melting of snow, because it's just kind of a constant saturation. It's a slow process. You know, a big storm, a big thunderstorm like we had last night, those things obviously are major impacts to a system, but it's a concentrated event, and it's not something that's just happening over and over. And that's one of the things that Bowden was telling us, is that snowstorm that we had some impact in terms of the extra flow that was happening. But so I don't know that we would be necessarily doing I&I related to that water grant, if that's what you mean.
No, I don't
You're
at all.
talking about
I'm talking about the new
Oh, okay.
infrastructure bill, the new money, that if you go to the EPA page on water infrastructure investments, the bipartisan infrastructure law, state revolving funds implementation memorandum for drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure. So what I'm asking is, so that we try not to use the $15 million line of credit, and we try not to add new debt to our customer base.
Absolutely.
Is there consensus of the board to direct staff to look at this funding opportunity for the big ticket projects that we know may be coming, in addition to what has hopefully been designated from the state budget money?
Okay, thank you. We will definitely report back to you on that.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
You're talking in addition to the 16 that's in the proposed
Yes.
governor's budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we know we had a finite list of projects that was submitted with a price tag.
Right.
Came to around $16 million. That's going to cover a lot of this, the decommissioning of the two plants, the reroute to Hop Yard, the I&I that we're talking about tonight, but it's not going to cover everything. And we know there are going to be more projects that are needed.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
So do we have a consensus of the board? I see a lot of head shaking, yes. So
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from Mr. Young or Mr. Miller on their reports? No? Okay, thank you, Mr. Young.
Thank y'all.
And Mr. Miller, now time for your general manager's report.
Okay, I would like to just say that as you know, and you may have discovered, our bathroom situation here, not working. Need to let you know it is not a service authority issue. It is associated with the plumbing for this building, and they are working on it. I apologize for the inconvenience. We do have a portalet, or a porta potty as they call them, that's out in the parking lot if anybody needs to use the facilities. And we also have the library as well. So we're sorry again. Okay, so I've got a couple items that I would add to this list up there, but one is this utility master plan. It was discussed at the work session last week. This is the document that we were referring to, and that is your copy. If you want it digitally, we can get you that as well. I just wanted to make sure that everybody got a hard copy, and I think we will forward it to the your committee members that you all individually appointed. So we'll get that out tomorrow. Just referencing the budget work session. So the 21st is this Thursday at 5:30 at the sheriff's office in his conference room. And then the April 28th meeting is the following Thursday. So again, what we talked about last week was This one coming up on the 21st is going to go into revenue. And we are going to have Kyle from Davenport will be there. And so we'll be able to talk about the financial plan that was put together in 2019. We are entering year 4 of a 5-year plan. And so Kyle will provide an overview of that, but also update you on that as well. You know, we can discuss, you know, the future of that plan. And then we'll present to you the revenue that we are projecting for the service authority for next year. And then on the 28th, we would probably bring back any additional items that need to be addressed in terms of the expenditures. And, you know, if everything is fine, you know, we would have the ability to set a public hearing at maybe the May 3rd meeting. And we would then have, you know, some kind of a public hearing in either, it would probably have to be the June meeting that you would have that. So, okay. Meeting with, would you go back for a second? So Doug, we met with the Virginia Department of Health, myself and Bryce Young and Jerry Goldman, our water manager. And this is in regards to the water activities, the water plans for the updates. It also has to do with the $5 million that the service authority is to get in July. The various projects that we're working on. There are a number of well sites that are going to be phased out, that have to be phased out under the state regulations. And so we are in the process of starting the process of either their replacement or either perhaps asking to keep them in service and you know, re-permit them. Perfect example is SAFT, which is in Dahlgren. It's due to go out in 2026. And that's when the permit runs out. And we're now talking about re-permitting that and going forward because it's a much more significant source for us than some of the smaller ones around there. The other one is we know Potomac 1 is now, you know, is essentially pumping sand. And so our options in the Fairview Beach and Potomac landing area are to either replace Potomac 1 or to replace one of the Fairview 1, 2, or 3. So we're studying those options as well. There was discussion as well about the push that's obviously going on with movement towards surface water. And if that becomes a reality, we will have to begin testing that surface water for the VDH requirements. And so that could be coming in the next couple of years, but we're obviously just trying to stay in touch with these agencies. As you realize, you have the Virginia Department of Health is involved in water, and so is the Department of Environmental Quality. So there's two kind of competing agencies, and at times they have very conflicting demands and needs and requirements, and we're trying to juggle that. So I think that is it. Yes, that's it. We've already covered the irrigation meters. We will bring you back information that we have on that. That's it. Oh, employment anniversaries. I'm sorry. This is the best part. Daryl Minter is our utility maintenance crew leader. He's been with us for 3 years, and then we have a whole number of new hires. We have Charles Mozingo. He's a line locator and a meter reader. He's also, you know, essentially in the utilities maintenance department. Noah Pitts as well, same position. And then we hired 2 new wastewater operators trainings, Brian Wilson and Wesley Scott. So these are all replacements of some existing crew members. And so just we're welcome aboard to the new hires, and then thank you, Daryl, for your continued service.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any questions for Mr. Miller? Okay, moving on. Any final information items?
I'll just note, just looking back through some stuff, to Ms. Kupka's question, take a look around December of 2020 through January of 2020. That's when we were discussing the irrigation stuff. Just from my contacts with the residents in Hop Yard, that's when we were looking at the discussions.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Can you tell us again when the town hall that you're hosting is going to be?
Yeah, that's this Sunday, 3:30 p.m. At the Citizen Center. And it's primarily for the residents of Presidential Lakes in Oakland Park. We did hold a town hall for the Hop Yard residents that covers the sewer authority customers within my district.
But are you allowing anyone to attend or?
Yeah, if you want to sit in and listen, you're more than welcome to.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody, anything else? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn to Thursday, April 21st at 5:30 p.m. at the Sheriff's Office.
Motion's been made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned until Thursday, April 21st, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. in the Sheriff's Conference Room.